Day 3 in Austin, Day 1 of South by Southwest. It has now begun, and of course, we immediately checked to see what new insights were there for us. The first thing I want to share with you is the topic of the future. Because the future and the track, as it's called here, 2050, is a standard feature at South by Southwest. That means you can see everything there that might be trends in the future. There are futurists who predict what might happen under certain circumstances. But this time it had a somewhat different tone, you could say. Several of these futurists, these speakers, were not focused on saying what will happen, but rather they emphasized that we need to enable people to make futurism somewhat possible themselves, to be able to predict the future, so to speak. In other words, to learn the systematics, the tools to be able to see what might come your way and what might not. That means no one can really be provoked anymore into predicting what exactly could happen in the future, because one realizes that some things are simply no longer predictable. And there were a total of 3 lectures that I also attended, which consistently struck the same tone and made it very clear. We don't want to predict anything anymore, but we would like to enable you to perhaps do it yourself. And I believe that is also the big takeaway from these lectures, that one must ritualize and establish the topic of future research, the systems and the frameworks within the company, to some extent, in order to be able to consciously and systematically engage with the future, and then to consider, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my company? And one of these aforementioned speakers was, of course, the pop star, or one of the pop stars at South by Southwest, namely Rohit Bhagavad. He is known for predicting non-obvious trends or highlighting them. This means, to some extent, showing what is not really visible but could still become a trend. And for the second time in a row, he focused precisely on not saying what he thinks will happen or what is visible, but rather he wants, with his mission, or he actually has the mission, to inspire people to become, to some extent, futurists themselves. And he definitely mentioned a defining phrase for me, which is rethink every assumption. That was one of his 6 tips that he shared to become such a futurist. This means questioning everything and assuming nothing as given. The second phrase he shared, I'll say directly in German because it's almost impossible to express it in English, but he clearly said, be truly curious, be genuinely curious. This means not just being superficially interested in people, but truly trying to gain depth. Really try us to understand why people might behave the way they do. And that was essentially his core insight, that those who understand people will, in this definitely challenging world, belong to the winners in the future. And I would like to share the second major part with you, which definitely represented a successful start to the house by Southwest. It was the social health researcher Kasley Killam. She has conducted research at some of the most prestigious universities in the USA, specifically on her social health. And the question is, what is social health? It's about establishing another strand, so to speak, alongside mental health, because she said that for at least the last 15 years, we have definitely dealt extensively with the topic of mental health and have truly made it a central part of our societal existence, experiencing, feeling, and above all, promoting and fostering its benefits. That means mental health is a topic that is established and will not go away. But she says the next era, the next epoch belongs to social health. What does she mean by that? She essentially means social interaction, human interactions, that is, connections between people, which is a central component or a key success factor for being healthy and celebrating a long life. Accordingly, she says social health will do in the next 15 years what mental health has done in recent years. That means it will become the new success pattern and the new success factor in business, personal relationships, etc. as well. And she says, for example, that companies that manage to establish social health within their organization will be among the winners. So that's the first impression from South by Southwest Day 1. It continues tomorrow with Day 2.